Folks, are the UFOs flying around in the skies that are being piloted by little green men? Are there aliens from other planets and universes invading our skies? And are they flying around and abducting people? Or maybe this, like your average prophecy preacher today, are there fallen angels and Nephilim sitting in cockpits operating some sort of motorized vehicle or jet? Are they flying around, and are people starting to see them, and are we getting them on video? What's going on out there? I've written a little booklet that has the answers. It's called The UFOs, Truth or Fable. Now you're going to have to decide, folks, what the truth is and what a fable is. You know, there's a big difference in truth and fiction. We need to get back to the truth. We need to get back to the Word of God. Last week we did a show on my new book about the UFOs. We talked quite a bit about this. We're going to continue in this week's show, and we're going to help you, I promise you. In this program, I'm going to give you the history of UFOs. I'm going to show you where it all started and where it's led to and what's behind it. And it's all in this little book. You're going to want to get this. And so don't go away. Stay tuned. All right, Brother Goodwin here, Dr. Charles Hiltibidal with me. Doc, you got a verse for us from Peter. Let's have that.
Yes, in 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 16 says, "For we have not followed cunningly devised fables, when we made known unto you the power and coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, but were eyewitnesses of his majesty."
Yeah, so cunningly. This is very cunning what's happening.
Very cunning.
And see, it used to be just, a certain fanatical group out there that went after the UFOs, and there's thousands of UFO stories. They have seminars. They all get together and they'll share their abduction story. I don't believe a bit of it, Doc. And I've had Christians call me and tell me they believe it or they've seen things. We've all seen things.
That's unidentified.
Yeah, I've seen lots of things I can't explain.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's aliens from outer space. But what the prophecy world is saying is that these are fallen angels and that this is a plan of Satan, and they're abducting women and impregnating them and all this crazy stuff. We read that last week, I believe.
That's Fable.
Here's the whole story in a nutshell. They teach that the sons of God, and of course they believe it started with a gap theory, and they say that the world existed for millions of years before Genesis 1, verse 2. But they say that, they teach that the sons of God in Genesis 6 were fallen angels. I'm reading right out of the booklet here, page 7. And that these fallen angels were cast to the earth, and they lusted after human women. Now, I'd like to know where they got that at, because it's not biblical at all. They lusted
if you're writing fiction, though.
Yeah, they lusted after human women. They married and bare children with them. I wonder who gave the bride away, huh? Did Moses give the bride away and give his daughter to an angel? You got to be kidding me! These people, they're not thinking properly. Yeah. They propose that these children born of them were half human and half angel, and are what the Bible calls in the Hebrew Nephilim. They claim these offspring of fallen angels had no soul and that they could not be redeemed. They say that in Noah's day, the entire race of man was corrupt and irredeemable. Did you ever read that in Genesis 6?
No.
It's not there, is it?
No, it isn't.
They were wicked continually. They were evil continually, and God was upset. But it doesn't say they were irredeemable. And it certainly doesn't say they had no soul.
And why does the Bible say that Noah was a righteous preacher? Why would a righteous preacher be preaching a righteous message to people who have no hope?
Yeah, crazy. They teach that Noah was saved because the flood, because his blood was not corrupted. Not that he was righteous or born again or saved, but because his blood hadn't been corrupted with the Nephilim.
I'm going to take the Bibles.
Now that's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie.
Yep.
That's not why Noah was spared.
No.
Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord.
That's right.
He was righteous because he was a believer in the
That's
Messiah. They believe one of the 8 souls on the ark must have been infected. So one of them got past the door, and God shut him in, and one of them was lost.
Ham's wife, they say.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've heard them on national TV say this.
Oh, yes. Oh, I've heard it.
And they say probably the wife of Ham. They pick on Ham's wife.
Yeah, because it's through Ham that you...
And so that's where the DNA of this bloodline is hung on and comes back in the future.
That's how Nimrod shows up out of all that. See?
And let's see. Now this crowd is writing books about these fallen angels and the return of the Nephilim. They have in recent years, and this is what the book's about. My book's not really about the Nephilim, but this is where it begins. It begins with the Nephilim, but it ends with what my book's about is the UFOs.
UFOs.
And let me read the last line here. They have in recent years moved into the UFO realm and are claiming that demonic beings are flying around in spaceships trying to bring deception into the world. You see, they begin with the gap theory, and it ends with UFOs in the sky.
Well, it begins with the gap theory, and if folks would like, they could get on my bookstore, and I have a 2 DVD set on fact or fiction concerning the gap theory.
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff.
Help people understand.
Now, I made this statement here, and then we'll move on, Doc. Not everyone in the fallen angel crowd teaches everything that I just mentioned. Not everybody believes all of it.
No, but all of them together, this is what
all
they
of them
cover.
believe some of what I just read.
Some of it, yes.
But some of them believe all of what I just read.
Yes.
And by the way, I disagree with all of it. I don't believe any of what I just read.
Some of them have been holding whole meetings on just UFOs.
And it's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
And we're headed down a bad path.
Headed down a rabbit hole that doesn't have any hope in it.
Doc, that's why I wrote this booklet. It's just 24 pages, easy to read.
Easy to read. And
I think it's going to be enlightening to people. And it's my opinion.
Because it's not able. You're presenting facts.
In recent years, prophecy teachers have expanded into the UFO hype, some out of zeal to gain followers through sensationalism. Others truly have fallen for the sci-fi,
well, I'm convinced some of them
rhetoric.
really are.
No doubt.
Hook, line, and sinker. They
No
are
doubt.
Convinced in it, and
Now, Doc, where did it all begin? In the book, I have the history of UFOs. I went right to history.com, and I pulled some stuff out of that. The history of this is very interesting. It started really in 1947 with 2 events. Let me just read a couple lines here, a couple paragraphs. The first well-known UFO sighting occurred in 1947 when businessman Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a group of 9 high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington. That's Washington State now. While he was flying his small plane, he saw these 9 objects that were somehow flying around. Now, what were they really? I don't know. They could have been reflections, could have been some kind of an illusion, could have been military stuff. Yep. This is 1947 now. There's stuff out there in 1947, as folks will learn when they read my book. They'll learn about what Germany had way back in 1943. They had a jet plane.
That's right.
A flying wing, believe it or not. In fact, when we get to it, they'll find that flying wing is still being examined and studied today. They're still baffled at why this thing works. Because it shouldn't have flown, but it does.
It does.
And by the way, that's on exhibit in Virginia at a Smithsonian museum. I'd like to go see that thing. Let's see. He saw this thing. He called them. He said they moved like saucers skipping on water.
Like
saucers skipping on water. The news report that followed mistakenly stated the objects were saucer-shaped.
What if he had said they look like rocks skipping across the water? I guess we'd have flying rocks.
Flying rocks.
Yeah.
And so this is where flying saucers came from. It was a mistake. It was not printed properly. That is not what the man said. The second instance, the Roswell incident. In Roswell, the same year that this guy saw the flying objects, a rancher nicknamed Mac came across a mysterious 200-yard-long wreckage path near an Army airfield in a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Every UFO enthusiast knows about Roswell. And
it's like for the Islamics, the Mecca.
Yeah, this became...
Everybody's got to go to Mecca.
This
Everybody
became
got to go to
the big
Roswell.
UFO movement. Was this here, the things that this man saw, and the things that got twisted, taken out of context, and misunderstood became... To this day, there are people who say that the Army lied.
That's the facts.
Yeah, that these were UFO. They believe that they've got an alien or something in a room somewhere.
Stuck in a box somewhere.
I've heard Christians have called me on the phone, Brother Goodwin, it's true. They have this. I said, have you ever seen it? No, but you haven't seen it.
It's amazing.
And if you saw it, you wouldn't know what it was. You couldn't prove nothing.
Why are we so gullible when we won't take the facts of the Bible?
Local papers reported as the remains of a flying saucer. Now, where did they get flying saucer? They got it from the misprinted story.
Yep.
The U.S. military issued a statement saying it was just a weather balloon, though the newspaper photograph suggested otherwise. I think it was something different than a weather balloon, because the military lies to us also, and I talk about that in the book.
No, they wouldn't do that.
This was a testing ground. They tested something. I believe they had mannequins and they fell on the ground. They were testing what would happen to people that fall and how to fall out of a plane, that kind of stuff. The flames of conspiracy were further flamed in the 50s. Later on in the 1950s, when dummies with latex skin and aluminum bones that looked eerily like aliens fell from the sky across New Mexico and were hurriedly picked up by military vehicles. To those who believed in the earlier Roswell sightings, this seemed like a government cover-up.
Wow.
It was a cover-up. It was a cover-up of a test, military test that they don't want anyone to know about. They certainly didn't want Russia to know. For the Air Force, those dummy drops were a way to test new ways for pilots to survive falls. 50 years later, the military issued a subsequent statement admitting that the Roswell wreckage was part of a Project Mogul, a top-secret atomic espionage project.
Oh, that couldn't be. That couldn't be. No.
Then that leads us to Area 51, 1950s and 60s. We're in Area 51. So Roswell, Area 51, these are terms that we all know about. What do they all have in common? Military base, testing grounds. Okay, and that's my foundation of what I'm trying to get people to see. The history of UFOs is the history of really the Cold War and Russia and America fighting each other behind the scenes, trying to outdo each other, build secret things, planes that can go under the radar, spy planes and military equipment. That's what this is all about. People are seeing these things, and they're somehow assuming that this is something from outer space, and it's aliens, or now it's fallen angels. No, it's military stuff. And
now it's developed into conspiratorial ideas, and it's developed into leading people away from truth.
Listen to this statement. This is Area 51. In the 50s and 60s, multiple UFO sightings were reported around Area 51 in Nevada. A site used by who? The CIA, the U.S. Air Force, and Lockheed Martin testing. Wow. They build airplanes and test stuff, right? To test flights of experimental aircraft or black aircraft. Now that's CIA stuff. Declassified documents show Area 51 was home to a Cold War program called Oxcart, dedicated to creating a spy plane that would be undetectable. Well, guess what? They did.
They did, and we do.
Remember the flying wing? The reason we know about the flying wing is it's antique now. They've got something else.
Oh, my. Yes.
They talk about the SR-71, the Blackbird, the F-117 Nighthawk, the Archangel 12, all these things. Some of these speeds upwards to 2,000 miles an hour. These mysterious planes help fuel rumors that Area 51 was used to conduct experiments on extraterrestrial life and their spacecraft. And that's what we hear all the time. Notice flying saucer was a mistake, and I give some explanations of what I just read here. The wreckage was located near a military base in Roswell. It's always that way. Most of the sightings of UFOs
of it is near
are in
air
those
bases.
kind of areas. It looked like aliens. They claimed in the 50s, What did an alien look like in the 50s since nobody had ever seen one?
No.
I think we got it from Hollywood.
Well, they got that mannequin with aluminum bones.
Yeah, well, we learned what an alien looked like from TV, from Hollywood movies, aliens. So most UFO sightings are nothing more than things blowing in the wind, reflections of light, satellites, optical illusions, etc., etc. It is worth considering that some of the more serious UFO sightings are, in fact, secret military aircraft.
Experimental.
Friend or foe, who knows? Do not, and I say this very seriously, do not get caught up in the UFO hype coming from prophecy ministries today.
Yes. It is a part of the end-time delusion.
It is.
And
it's fables.
It's shame, Dan, it is shameful that God's men are helping advance the spirit of delusion.
Now, I'm going to skip some of this, Doc. I have the history of war, and I give it on purpose to show man's drive to get military equipment, guns, bombs, airplanes, to overcome the enemy or defend against the enemy. It's important to see this because it helps you understand what's going on.
And the advancement of it all.
The advancement of military stuff, weaponry, airplanes, bombs. I talk about the nuclear bomb in great detail, the nuclear age. I have a story in here about the Manhattan Project, where they built the atomic bomb that they dropped on Japan in 1945. And I talk about the fact that only a few people at the top level even knew what was being built.
Even the new president didn't know.
Even Truman didn't know.
The vice president.
The vice president didn't know we were building an atomic bomb until FDR died and he was sworn in. They pulled him aside and told him about the bomb.
Now here's what you got.
Yeah. Everybody worked. There were 120,000 people working on the Manhattan Project. Probably less than 100 even knew what was being built.
What they were really working on.
And probably way
but
less than
that's still going on
You know,
today.
I was in the Navy. In the Navy, we learned in school that classified information was on a need-to-know basis. Every military guy knows that.
We got that in the Air Force.
Yep. You didn't know unless you needed to know.
Even I had a top secret clearance, and there were a whole lot of things that I didn't know.
So I go through the Manhattan, I go through military, the bombs, the fact that in 1952 they invented the hydrogen bomb, 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb.
So you wonder what we really have today.
That was over 70 years ago. What do we got today?
That's it.
And
the advancement in science, unbelievable.
Now I got a section in here about the Cold War. The end of the book is all about UFOs and the Cold War. Because the Cold War began, guess what? In 1947, basically, or 1945.
That's whenever we were ending World War II. Russia and America were the basic liberator. We liberated that part of Europe, and so they split up and took part, and we took part. That's how they got. We had West and East Berlin, and we divided all that out.
Yeah.
So, it all began back then.
Yeah, and the Cold War basically was Russia and America, the Soviet Union and America competing against each other.
Because at that time, we were the predominant powers of the world. China was not even a thought of product.
And it actually lasted until 1991. Now, I think to some degree it's still going on, but really, Ronald Reagan
they're
had
returning
a lot to
to
do
it
with
rapidly.
ending that. But really, the years from like 47 to 69 were big. And there were a lot of things going on in secret, and we just read about some of them. That's what all this is, these testing grounds, and testing the flying wing and these aircraft. And look, when you see something like that, no one's ever seen it. What are you going to think? Oh my goodness, that must be from another planet. And the hype
That's
going that way.
because of the media and the ability of movies and all of that.
I want to tell the audience right now, just as serious as I can, there are no aliens or fallen angels flying around in spacecraft.
That's
None.
right.
Zero. None. I promise you. It's all it's a fable.
It's a fable.
It's not true. There are military things out there from our government and other governments. Those are out there. And don't get caught up in this stuff.
That's right.
So the Cold War. Now let me prove what I'm saying here. I have a picture. I'm going to have Rex put this picture up. Look at that. Can you imagine? This thing existed from 1943 to 1945. The Germans built this thing. This is literally a flying wing, a prehistoric flying wing, long before America ever built
triangular
one.
shaped.
This thing actually flew. This had jet engines. Can you imagine if you're walking down the street in 1944 and you're headed to the creek and you're going to go fishing and you're with your buddy and you look up and this thing flies by or streaks by as a jet?
Yeah.
What would you be thinking?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? There's no such thing as that in the world.
And if the Germans had that in 43, that tells you how important it was that the scientists that snuck out of Germany and came to America that helped us in the atomic program, we'd all be speaking German today instead of English.
Things. They knew that Germany was working on the atomic bomb.
That's exactly
they
right.
were brilliant people.
Oh,
Brilliant.
yes.
Still are.
You do know I am German in descent.
Well,
so.
most of them are brilliant.
Yeah.
And no, they are the brilliant-minded people, the Germans.
Yeah.
And they built things. And they built a flying wing with jet engines before anybody even
knew
thought
what it
of
was
such
about.
a thing.
Yeah.
And there it was. And now it was expensive. And of course, the war ends and Hitler didn't use it. But imagine. What my point is, if you'd have saw that thing in 1944, 1945, flying through the sky or late at night,
It'd been unidentified. You wouldn't know how to identify
it. There was no such thing as a jet.
No.
And here goes a jet streaking by. You'd think that's a UFO.
Yeah.
It was a UFO.
Yeah,
Unidentified.
it was.
My point in that is the things that people are seeing 70 or 80 years later in America,
imagine? Yeah.
it's the same principle. It's stuff that's being tested. There's stuff we don't know about, and people are seeing it.
And then it's the military that gives us all of these distorted, obscure pictures.
And I don't remember if we talked about that last week or not, the ship, the Omaha.
Yes, we did.
We talked about that last week. And the video that they released to us is laughable.
It looks like 50-year-old videos.
It's fuzzy, blurry trash like from the 70s age. It's ridiculous.
And we have the ability, if we can take from a satellite and read the license plate, surely on our military ships we got better cameras than that.
Doc, in the book here, I got 2 stories on that plane that I had Rex put the picture up. World War II flying wing, decades ahead of its time. Revolutionary design for a future fighter aircraft that could theoretically fly over war zones of the coming century.
And there's been a lot of movies made based on all of that stuff.
The concept looks more like a flying saucer than a fighter plane. Yeah. It is what aviation experts call a flying wing, a design which ditches the traditional tail fin. I won't read all this, but it looks about as futuristic as a fighter aircraft can get, but the genesis goes further back than you think, to a truly groundbreaking jet fighter design built and flown in Nazi Germany in the dying days of World War II. Yeah. The aircraft is called the Horten Ho 229, and it might be a footnote in aviation history, but it was so far ahead of its time that its aerodynamic secrets are still not completely understood today.
Yes. Amen.
This thing's in Virginia, by the way, at the Smithsonian. And in fact, chief scientists at NASA still working to discover just how its creators managed to overcome the challenges that should have made it unflyable.
Yes, it's amazing.
There's something in here. Oh, here it is. I want the viewers to see this. In the 2000 movie Captain America, the First Avenger, the hero, the eponymous hero battles, or Captain America battles the evil Nazi called Red Skull. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
I've seen it.
Red Skull, on board a sleek, menacing, all-wing aircraft. Do you remember the aircraft in that movie? This is amazing. It was right at the end of World War II where the movie took place, and he's trying to catch that plane or whatever. It's a flying wing. The future of freedom hangs in the balance as the sophisticated jet plane zooms towards New York City with a payload of super weapons intended for total annihilation. Of course, it's all Hollywood CGI. It's not real. It's comic book action rolled into a blockbuster film. The stuff of dreams and star-studded spectaculars. I love this. All made up, that is, except for one thing. The huge bomber, while it is certainly the product of a director's hyperactive imagination, It is strikingly similar to the HO-229 V3, the first jet-powered flying wing preserved and on display at the Smithsonian in Chantilly, Virginia to this day.
Yeah. Well, this is what's happened. These things, through media, through the movies and all of this, has planted so much in the minds of people that it has now developed into a full-blown delusion.
UFOs in the sky, and I've got a quote in here, and I probably can't find it. Here it is, right here. All propulsion-equipped flying objects that are ever seen or filmed or detected on radar are man-made.
Wow.
I promise you that's true.
Yes.
All propulsion-equipped flying objects that are ever seen or filmed or detected on radar are man-made. I want the viewers to get that. Truth or fable? UFOs, truth or fable? Are they fallen angels flying around? Are they aliens? Or are they fables? Listen, there's stuff out there. I promise you there's stuff out there. But it's man-made. It's military stuff. It's either ours or some other country's.
It's either something to do with the nature around it, or it's man-made objects.
We got 2 minutes left, Doc. Here's the end of the book, the danger of all this UFO hype. Here it is, the danger. I wrote 7 things down. Number 1, it gets us away from the clear teachings of the Bible. You said that already. Number 2, since it is filled with such sensationalism, it can bring discord among believers.
And it has done that.
Number 3, it leads the believer into what Paul warned, fables. Fables. We're following fables instead of the Bible. Number 4, it keeps us occupied with things other than what the Lord called us to do.
Studying the book and teaching the truth.
There's some others here, Doc, but we'll save some for the folks to get. And again, I say, do not get caught up in the UFO hype coming from Prophecy Ministries today. Yeah. It's hype and it's fables and it's fiction.
They need to get back to Bible prophecy.
Doc, we got a minute left. We're a viewer-supported ministry. Yes. And by the way, we're getting very close to another payment for the radio and television. We need somebody to write a check for $5,000. We could use some 1,000, some 2,000s. If you have ever given before and you still believe in us, we hope that you'll do something for us. Get a hold of us, send us an email or something.
Yes.
We need your help. We're a viewer-supported ministry. Doc, tell the folks what they need to do in 20 seconds to get to heaven.
Number 1, you need to understand you're lost. Nothing you can do about changing your destiny. But God loved you so much that He sent His Son to Calvary's cross. And by placing your faith and trust in Jesus Christ, you can change your destiny from hell to heaven by being born again. That's what it's about.
Praise God. I got saved in 1981.
Amen.
God. I've been saved. I'm saved to the uttermost.
That's right.
I'm saved till the day of redemption. I'm sealed.
I'm looking forward to the rapture when the saints of God are taken out of here.
We're getting out of here. By the way, that's going to happen pretty soon. But until then, keep your eyes on them skies.